Nancy here, and I want to show you another little problem that happens to new knitters. And they're making their nice stockinette piece here, and everything's going fine, and they look at it and they're like, something's not right with my pattern here. You can see here I've got a couple of big holes here, and they have no clue how they've got there, and also they've ended up with a few extra stitches, and they don't know how they got there either. What has happened is that a stitch has been made where there wasn't one, using the running thread that goes between the two stitch columns. Right here, you see your stitch columns run up like this, and inadvertently you went underneath the running thread and made a stitch. Now, if it was just this one, we could back it out and say everything is good, but because we have to go down this far, the easiest way to fix it will probably be to pull the needle. But first I want to show you how this happens. It's really easy to do, actually. Instead of going into this stitch, you've gone underneath that running thread and made a stitch. And then you went on and, okay, now, you know, it's not so obvious when you do it, but after you put a few more rows in, it really will show up. So we're going to pull the needle. Not scary. Wool is not as slippery as some of the other yarns, but once you get through this a few times, you won't have any problems. It's not so bad at all. See, it's just coming off. Well, it was coming off. Okay, so, oh, there we go. So what I'm going to do, and this is not a big deal if we don't get them on the needle properly. Okay. I'm going in through the back. But you know what? That's okay. If you don't get them on there correctly, we can turn them around, and I'm going to show you how to do that. No biggie. You just right now want to get them on the needle. And I actually, while I'm doing this, I do this every time, my point's going to be going in the wrong direction. See, I work with double points and circulars too much. That's okay. Okay? So they are back on the needle safe and sound. So all I have to do to get back down to the point end is I'm just going to basically walk these stitches back down the needle. And I'm going to go in them as if to purl. And what I mean by that, you're entering the stitch purlwise. If you enter it knitwise, you'd be going in like this. And the reason they tell you to do it purlwise is because it doesn't twist the stitch incorrectly. If you do this, it will. And unless otherwise told differently, you always do it as if to purl. So we're just going to go across. This is called slipping as if to purl. This is also a good way, just in case one of my stitches were on backwards. Let's say this one was turned around. All I'd have to do is flip it around and we're good to go. Now the other question I get all the time is, how do I know if these stitches are on my needle correctly? That's a good question. I had a lady tell me years ago, well, you just know. Well, no, you don't just know. So here's what I'm going to show you, and it's something easy you will always remember. If you look at this needle and you pretend it's a centipede, and all these little guys are legs, you're going to notice something that they all have in common. They're right-legged. And what I mean by that, you see here, it's leading with its right leg. The left is down lower. The right is up higher. And it doesn't matter if it's just been knit, purled, it will not matter. It's always going to have the right leg leading. I'll go down a few more so I can show you. Okay, let's say this one's turned here. Okay, notice the left is higher, the right is lower. That stitch is twisted, and what you would notice, if they are twisted, it's more difficult to knit into it. So as long as you look at your stitches and you can see that the right leg is leading, your stitches are on correctly. If they're not, just turn them, no biggie. And all of them are on correctly. And that's how you take your stitches off a needle and put them back on. Not so scary at all.